The Big 12, in trying to be honorable, could end up screwing themselves. This is a complete response to Joel Klatt, who responded with a full video talking about on his show, the Joel Klatt Show, responding to Brett Yormark, the commissioner of the Big 12. He came out with a statement saying what will be best for college football will be 5 automatic qualifiers and the possibility that there are 11 at-large bids. The main thing for Joel Klatt and what he wants to see is fan engagement and expansion for the sport to be fun for the fans, because ultimately they drive people getting into the seats. They drive people putting their eyeballs on the television to watch these games. And if there is what happened in the past continuing to happen in the future, which is the Big 12 and the ACC being a bit of lesser conferences now, especially in the transfer portal era, where some of these SEC and Big Ten teams are able to get a second pass, and maybe some of that lower talent bringing teams to their schools. Yormark said that he thinks that it would be the most fair for the scope of college football, and Klatt said the complete opposite of that. How is this going to be fair? If we look at last year, the Big 12 only getting one team in the college football playoff, the fact that Arizona State's head coach Kenny Dillingham, Sonny Dykes, the head coach at TCU, are saying that they don't want any gimmies or freebies. It's honorable. We understand that. That's great, but this could be one of the worst moves that the Big 12 could ever make. They just survived. The Pac-12 has ceased to exist. It is no longer a thing because of what happened in the last couple of seasons. Like, they didn't get a rights agreement. The money wasn't there, so the best teams end up going over to the Big 10. The Big 12 already lost Texas. They lost Oklahoma. The heavy hitters of that conference are no longer there. They're adding that depth to the Southeast Conference. So, wrapping this all in to a response, I am completely with Joel Klatt on this. I frankly think that it would be a gift. And sometimes you have to just accept a gift, whether you think it's charity or not, understanding that, look, you need this assistance. And if we're being honest with this, the Big 10, the SEC, and the 16-team field are likely going to get somewhere between 8 to 11 teams into the college football playoff. And the Big 12, it just doesn't make any sense at all. They're going to be guaranteed 2 teams to make the college football playoff every year. Those 2 teams that would be likely competing in their Big 12 championship game. Those would be the teams going. Conference champ is going to be going, of course. So when we talk about the scope of college football and what is obviously driving it, it's the engagement, it's the eyeballs, the people looking at those games. He wrote down a list, and one of the largest factors was meaningful football games. He talked about fan engagement, what's good for the fans, and a different system that would have 11 at-large bids for the teams that didn't get those automatic qualifiers. We look at the past couple of years, we would have had 1 team for the Big 12 last year in the college football playoff previously. We had 1 team, and I believe 1 team before that. There was, Texas, and then TCU playing the national championship 2 years ago. It was Texas getting beat by Washington in the semifinals. But in the 12-team format last year, we just saw Arizona State. There wouldn't have been an Iowa State. There wouldn't have been a BYU. Colorado was ranked number 23. But if they could have gotten 2 teams in, that would have been a representation for that conference, all the more better. I cannot agree, again, anymore with Joel Klatt on this. Sometimes you just have to take what you are given and just run with it. And so the great responsibility he mentions, I'm quoting here, that goes with the Big 10 and the SEC. These teams are looking out for the conference, but they're still leaving potentially half of the spots available for the other teams. I don't get the greed side of that. The Big 10 and the SEC are stronger than the rest of college football, and they could be within their rights to say, hey, Big 10, SEC, we're going to go off on our own and have our own national championship decided between the 2 of us, almost like the national football. We've got the Big 10 and we got the SEC, the winner of each of the conferences, or we put our own bracket together. They could formulate something and all of the eyeballs would be there. You know how many eyeballs would be on the ACC or the Big 12 without the SEC and the Big 10? It would be disastrous for college football. So everyone is coming to the table. Greg Sankey, Tony Petitti, like, they're all there to discuss what will be the best for college football. And Klatt even mentioned that if it goes to 16 teams, we're talking about these qualifiers, that they could try to debate or try and get a 2.5, what that would look like would be the two automatic qualifiers from each of the conferences, and then it guaranteed another spot for either the Big 12 or the ACC getting into the college football playoff. Like, the worst thing that can happen in all of this is you do get into that expanded format, and over the last 5 years, this is all what Klatt was saying, is you get into that format, it's the Big 12 champ that goes, and then that's the only team. Next year beyond, after that, one team goes, and then it's no other team. Instead of them getting a guaranteed 10 college football playoff teams over the next 5 years, there's a very realistic possibility it's only 5 or 6 over the next 5 years. How is that good for the growth or meaningful games for people watching the Big 12, or that's on TV, or a willingness to go to support or go watch those football games, and making the whole sport as a whole all the more entertaining and wanting to consume that product? The possibility of having play-in games on the conference championship weekend is one of the more exciting possibilities that has ever been talked about in the recent modern era of sports. The fact that we could have the top two teams play in the conference championship game. Let's say it's 4 ranked Penn State, number 2 ranked Oregon. They play. They're both guaranteed spots to go to the college football playoff. The winner of that game gets a first round bye. And then the 3 team, let's say it's the Ohio State Buckeyes at 10-2, and let's say they're playing Illinois at number 6. And then 4, Indiana playing Iowa at number 5. 3 and 4 would get the games at home, and then teams 5 and 6, they have a 1 game, 60 minutes to get into the college football playoff. They win that game, they're punching their ticket to the college football playoff. There is not going to be any sympathy for an Ohio State or an Iowa team that gets a game at home against a team they're going to be favored in that game to go to the college football playoff. Klatt talked about this a couple of episodes ago. We're going back 2 weeks, and the fact that he was just mentioning how when we look at that, why would we have sympathy for an Ohio State team that had all of their chances the entire year to get into the Big Ten championship and punch their ticket, automatically qualify for the college football playoff, and then with it 1 game to decide it at home that they're favored than the team that they're better than to go, and they lose? You don't get more opportunities than that. And that's exactly what would almost be provided here when there's talk about the 16-team playoff. It's as if the Ohio State Buckeyes are going to be, like, they're 9-3, that team's getting in. Tennessee, 9-3, that whole group of those second-tier SEC teams that are incredibly deep. Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Florida's coming up in those ranks. They are right there. South Carolina, right there with North Sellers. I'm putting Texas, Georgia, and Alabama in that first tier. In the Big Ten, you've got, obviously, right now, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan is on the cusp. We don't exactly know what that roster is going to be, but behind that, there's Indiana, who made the playoff last year. There's Iowa, who's improving. There's Nebraska, 3rd year under Matt Rule. And, of course, Illinois with a very, very favorable schedule with Brett Bielema, a good coach. USC, we're expecting that team to get back into the fold. Washington, 2 years removed from a national championship game appearance. Wisconsin, who just hasn't performed all that well. Michigan State, who's been on the down. There is that whole group of those second level, that second tier of teams in the SEC and the Big Ten that you could see behind, like those top 6 we mentioned, that could put in another possibility of 4 teams from, or 3 or 4 teams from each of those conferences. So now we're talking about the possibility of it being what that would look like 3 teams from that could be 13 teams from the Big Ten and the SEC. Realistically, something like 11 and 12 every single year. Like last year, Alabama would have gotten in. Ole Miss would have gotten into that thing. LSU would have been out of it, but they would have been extremely close. Texas A&M, they were right there on the cusp of getting into the college football playoff. So we'd be looking at something like, instead of just 8 teams every single year and half of the playoff field being made up of the SEC in the Big Ten, instead, it could be 11 possibly in some of those years, but realistically it's going to be 9 or 10 any of those seasons for those at-large bids. Those conferences are just too deep in that second tier, and those teams beating up on each other and being able to win 8-3, 8-4, 9-3 seasons are going to get into the playoffs. So let me know in the comments what you think ultimately about this. There's all this traction for the 5x11 model. I don't understand it. I'm completely with Joel Klatt on this. He asked for a response, so I came out with a video to respond to it fully on his side. I support college football as a whole. I'm a fan. I know he's a fan. And all of us are just wanting to see the most fair format, but that would not be fair to the Big 12, saying that you're going to potentially only get one team every year, and we could get 5 or 6 from the Big 10 and the SEC. That just does not make any sense at all. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more content coming out in the future, and I will catch you next time.